The room was silent. Not the quiet kind that comes with peace, but the heavy silence that presses against your chest like a storm about to break. Ambassador Reeve stood tall, even as the chains dug into his wrists. His face, bloodied but proud, stared down the Galactic Council, a circle of alien elites who believed themselves above justice. He didn't speak. Not anymore. They had beaten the words out of him days ago. Around him, the grand chamber buzzed with whispers from 100 species. Some pitied him, most didn't. Humanity was new to the stars, too emotional, too aggressive, too human. The council didn't like what they couldn't control. High Chancellor Vereen, a long-necked being with silver scales and cold eyes, finally stood. Her voice echoed across the chamber like a blade slicing silk. For crimes against the order of the galaxy, for treason against peace, and for the arrogance of defiance, this human will be executed. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some stood, some bowed their heads. No one protested. No one except one. In the far back, hidden in the crowd, a woman in a long cloak didn't flinch. Her fingers tapped the small device strapped to her wrist. A tiny green light blinked once. Then again. Then it stayed on. She turned and disappeared into the shadows. Reeve lifted his eyes to the sky above. The chamber was open to space, protected only by a translucent energy dome. Stars shimmered, peaceful, indifferent. And then, darkness. The stars blinked out like dying candles, one by one, then a hum, low and growing. The sky wasn't dark because night had fallen. It was dark because something massive blocked out the light. A ship. No, a fleet. Human ships. A message flashed across every holoscreen, every comm device, every mind-linked diplomat in the chamber. Execute one of us, and you will hear from all of us. Humanity remembers. Chancellor Vereen's lips twitched. They wouldn't dare, she whispered. But deep down, they all knew. They would, because humans had never let death go unanswered. Reeve's lips curled into a bloody smile. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick with fear. High Chancellor Vereen tried to maintain her composure, but her hand trembled as she tapped her datapad. All across the Galactic Council's chamber, representatives rose from their seats, eyes fixed on the blackness above. The dome's protective shield flickered under the pressure of the energy pulsing from the human fleet. None of them had seen this kind of technology before. Humanity had been quiet for years, ever since they were granted limited entry into the Council. The galaxy had thought Earthlings primitive, disorganized, emotional. Turns out they were just patient. Reeve didn't say a word. He just stood there, head raised, eyes locked on the floating banners of the Council. Even in chains, he looked like he was the one holding court. The execution platform began to rise beneath his feet. "Stop the proceedings!" barked a deep voice from the lower row. General Rathkel of the Zor-Thar Alliance stood tall, his forearms clenched into fists. "You saw that message. This isn't the time for pride. They've come for him." Vereen shot him a look sharp enough to cut steel. "He was tried under council law. They must not intimidate us." "They already have," someone else murmured. The dome flickered again. Then, for a second, everything in the chamber went dark. Lights, screens, shields. Just long enough to send a clear message. "We're inside your systems." They came in silence. No explosions, no warnings. Just that awful, creeping blackout that told the Council their false sense of superiority had just crumbled. Humanity hadn't just brought ships, they had brought command. From the shadows of the balcony, the cloaked woman emerged again, now walking calmly down the central aisle. She pulled her hood down. A human, Council guards moved to intercept her, but a voice echoed from every corner of the chamber. "Stand down," it said. "She is not alone." The guards paused. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was human, calm, but had a sharp edge, cold, like the space just beyond that flickering dome. The woman stopped at the base of the execution platform. Reeve looked down, blood trailing from his jawline. She met his gaze and nodded once. He nodded back. Verine's voice cracked through the tension. "This is a breach of council law. Humanity will face—" The woman cut her off without turning. "You already killed the law when you tortured him. You called it peace, but it was punishment for refusing your demands. We don't follow tyrants. You are not authorized to— You executed a peace envoy." The chamber fell quiet again. "Reeve was here to negotiate, not to bow. You punished him for his spine, and now—" She raised her hand, fingers twitching ever so slightly. "You've declared war without even realizing it." Outside, hundreds of ships began to shift into formation. No weapons fired, no planets threatened. Just the black mass of metal and silence, blotting out half the stars in the sky. Then came the second message, booming across every screen, every channel. "Return the envoy alive, or return him in pieces. Either way, your time is up." The chamber felt smaller now. Every alien in that high, towering hall, built with the arrogance of species who believed they'd tamed the galaxy, suddenly looked cornered. The massive windows above, once a symbol of their cosmic dominance, now served as a haunting reminder. The sky had turned against them. High Chancellor Verine stood paralyzed. Her mouth hung open slightly, words forming but failing. The screens that floated mid-air across the chamber glitched, static buzzing in the ears of every being present. It wasn't a malfunction. It was pressure. Human systems were speaking directly to theirs, as if technology itself had begun to obey Earth's command. "Security!" she hissed. "Seize her! And him!" The woman didn't move. She didn't need to. The council guards took one step toward her, then froze mid-motion, their weapons failing, their armor flickering with sparks. One dropped his rifle altogether as his neural implant screamed inside his skull. Another fell to his knees, clawing at his own visor. "No more games," the woman said softly. She turned to Reeve. His arms hung limp, chained to the steel columns of the execution stand. Blood soaked through his robes, and his lips were cracked, but his gaze still burned. She pulled a small device from her belt and pressed it against the chains. A sound like a sigh and a hiss escaped, and they released. Reeve stumbled, but she caught him. "You came," he said, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. "We all did." Outside, the human fleet repositioned. Like shifting shadows, thousands of vessels silently created a wall of black metal across the Council's orbit. The light of the nearest sun still glimmered beyond, but the ships refused to let its rays through. "I warned you," General Rathkel muttered. "I said they were emotional. But no one listened when I said emotions make them dangerous." Verine spun to him. "So what? You'd let them threaten us like this?" He shrugged, two of his arms folding. "I'd rather be alive and insulted than dead and proud." Meanwhile, the other council species began to murmur among themselves. The Kalari delegation blinked their 7 eyes rapidly, clearly shaken. The Izonic, usually calm and analytical, had begun broadcasting frantic mind-link messages to their homeworld. No one wanted to be part of this anymore. Not against humans. Not now. Reeve stood upright, breathing slowly. "You called me arrogant for refusing to let you mine Earth's oceans. You said we were selfish for not offering our young for your genetic trade. You beat me for protecting my people." Verine gritted her teeth. He stepped forward, and his voice grew stronger. You thought killing me would send a message? You're right. It did. But not the one you wanted. The woman at his side raised her wrist again. A projection appeared above the chamber. A real-time broadcast. Earth. Billions of humans gathered in the streets, staring at the skies. Cities unified, differences forgotten. Races, creeds, even nations. None of it mattered now. They stood together, waiting for what came next. Reeve looked at them all, one by one. We begged to join your galaxy. We tried to play nice. We followed your laws, and you chained me like an animal. He turned to Vereen, his words slicing now. So now we're done asking. The chamber dimmed further. One ship began to descend into atmosphere, massive, sleek, dark as void. It hovered just above the Capitol's spire, unmoving, like a divine punishment waiting for a signal. Vereen took a step back. You'll doom your kind to war. Reeve raised an eyebrow. We were born in war, raised in it, perfected by it. We don't fear it like you do. The human woman looked around, her eyes scanning every alien face. Choose, she said. Stand down and let him walk free, or see what happens when you cross a species with nothing left to lose. A moment passed. Then another. The Kalari ambassador stood. Release the human. Vereen's jaw dropped. What? The Ozonic followed. Then the Uvara. Then dozens more. One by one, the council fractured before her eyes. And for the first time in centuries, the mighty galactic council was afraid. The chains hit the ground with a soft clatter that echoed louder than any declaration. It wasn't just metal falling, it was power, symbolism, a cosmic order unraveling before the eyes of 1,000 alien dignitaries. Reeve rolled his shoulders slowly, the stiffness in his muscles groaning from the days of abuse. He didn't wince, he didn't break, he just breathed. For the first time in weeks, he was unbound. The woman by his side, Captain Ayla Wren, commander of the Covert Strike Wing Ghost Protocol, gave him a subtle nod, then turned to face the chamber. Anyone who attempts to lay a hand on the Envoy again, she said, her voice now amplified through every speaker in the room, will be considered an enemy of Earth, and enemies of Earth don't last long anymore. She wasn't wrong. The Council had seen wars, civil wars, trade wars, border skirmishes. But never like this. Never against a species that didn't fight for dominance or territory, but for vengeance, for pride, for one of their own. Vereen looked like she was aging by the second. Her silver-scaled skin dulled, and her once regal posture began to collapse under the weight of the room turning against her. She wasn't just losing control, she was losing relevance. Traitors, she whispered, as more ambassadors stepped away from her central platform. Cowards. Rathkel, still standing off to the side, chuckled bitterly. Or maybe we're just realists, Vereen. Humanity doesn't bluff. You thought their anger was a weakness. Turns out it was their sharpest weapon. Vereen's voice cracked. This sets a dangerous precedent. If we bend to Earth now, they'll rule by fear. No, Reeve said finally, stepping down from the platform, flanked by Ayla. We won't rule. We'll remember. And so will you. Ayla pressed a small disc against her wrist, activating a short-range transport. Within seconds, Reeve's image began to flicker, then vanished entirely. He was gone. Extracted. Back on board one of the ships waiting in the black sky above. And that sky was still watching. The chamber remained frozen, hundreds of delegates still staring at where he had stood. None dared speak first. Everyone waited to see what Earth would do next. Ayla didn't leave right away. She let the silence stretch. Reeve was the last chance you had to keep Earth at the table. You threw that away when you tortured him, she said, her voice colder now. We won't be petitioning for membership anymore. We'll be redefining it. Are you threatening the Council? hissed one of the lesser delegates, a thin-spined, multi-eyed creature from the Edge systems. Isla turned toward him slowly. "Number, we're correcting a mistake. The galaxy thought humanity was weak because we asked to join instead of conquer. We offered friendship instead of war. But now..." She stepped back, placing 2 fingers on the transport disk. "Now you'll see what we really are." She vanished. A heartbeat passed. Then, for the first time in its history, the chamber's main doors were not dismissed by ceremony or dismissed by guards. They were breached. Explosive charges detonated, blowing the towering entrance inward. Smoke poured in. And from the fog walked 12 armored human soldiers, black-clad, each bearing the insignia of Earth's new Terran Defense Accord. Not a shot was fired, not a word spoken. They didn't need to. They walked to the center of the chamber, placed a sealed black box on the floor, and left just as silently as they came. The council approached it slowly, cautiously, like it might explode. When it opened, a hologram flickered up. Reeves' face, bruised and battered, but unbowed. "This is not a declaration of war," he said, calm and solemn. "This is a warning. Earth will no longer ask to be accepted. We are the future of this galaxy. You can walk beside us, or be left behind." Then the hologram shifted, to Earth itself, cities, children, scientists, soldiers, planets now colonized under human flags, ships under construction, AI protocols running planetary defense nets, and beneath it all, 4 words pulsed on every screen. Humanity remembers. Always. On board the TSV Revenant, orbiting just beyond the edge of the Galactic Council's planet, Reeves stood before the massive viewport, watching the sky. It was still black. Not because of nightfall, but because Earth's fleet was still there, unmoving, unblinking, like a hand hovering over a switch the galaxy couldn't afford to let flip. He rested a hand on the glass, the cool hum of the ship vibrating through his skin. It was surreal, standing here after weeks of captivity. He should have been dead. He was supposed to be. The council had made a spectacle of him. Broken bones, isolation, no communication, no hope. And now they were afraid of him, not because of what he could do, but because of what humanity would do for him. Behind him the doors hissed open, and Ayla Wren stepped inside. She didn't salute, didn't posture. She just leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "You should rest." Reeve turned, a small smile tugging at the corner of his bruised lips. "I've rested enough. In chains." She said nothing, just stared at him. There was pride in her eyes, but also worry. "The Council is panicking," she finally said. 17 species have requested emergency talks. Some want protection. Others want to surrender influence to Earth, to avoid a full war. Reeve didn't blink. "They think this is about power." "Isn't it?" "No," he said. "It's about pain. It's about being humiliated in front of the galaxy we tried so hard to be part of. We begged for unity. They gave us chains." Isla stepped forward, "And now the chain is around their necks." He nodded. "Let them choke on it." Across the fleet, Earth's military was on high alert. Dozens of ships, some larger than anything the Council had ever seen, lined up in strategic orbits, blocking trade routes, intercepting outbound communications, even disabling satellites across Council-controlled sectors. But no shots had been fired. Not yet. It was the waiting that scared them most. The Revenant's tactical deck buzzed as a holographic display blinked to life, showing an incoming hail, encrypted, originating from Council Prime. Isla glanced at Reeve. "Vereen. Put her through." The projection sharpened. Vereen's face appeared, smaller now, powerless. Her proud posture was gone, her tone clipped and desperate. "We demand the withdrawal of all Terran vessels from orbit. This show of force violates over 60 interstellar treaties." "You executed a diplomat," Reeve interrupted coldly. "You don't get to talk about treaties." "Reeve, please. The Council is fracturing. Your actions have caused chaos." "Our actions?" he barked, eyes narrowing. "You mean yours. I didn't shatter the Council. You did when you decided a human life meant less than your pride." Her face darkened. "What do you want?" Ayla stepped into the frame beside him. "We want the truth made public. Every record, every moment of Reeve's torture, every order you gave. We want the galaxy to know what you did." Vereen flinched. "That would destabilize the Central Core." "Good," Ayla snapped. "Maybe it's time something else took its place." Reeve leaned closer. "You will resign. Publicly. You will admit your crimes. And then you will disappear. Because if we ever see you again anywhere in this galaxy, we won't send a message. We'll send fire." The line went silent. Vereen stared at them, eyes searching for a way out. There wasn't one. The feed cut. For a moment there was peace aboard the Revenant. A quiet hum. The breath before the universe shifted. Then came the call from Earth High Command. "Ambassador Reeve, permission to initiate Phase 2? He stared at the stars. He knew what Phase 2 meant. Targeted disruption, economic shutdowns, deep AI sabotage of the Council's infrastructure. No bullets, just collapse. He closed his eyes. "They need to remember," he told himself, "or this happens again." Permission granted. Across the fleet, signals launched. In minutes, the Council's banking AI failed. In seconds, food logistics in the outer colonies glitched, rerouting all supplies through Earth-protected lanes. A message was broadcast galaxy-wide. "This is not conquest. This is correction." Reeve turned to Ayla. "Now we wait." "For what?" "For them to beg." The collapse didn't come with fire. It came with silence. One by one, galactic council systems began to dim. Not explode. Not burn. Just go quiet. Banking networks scrambled. Transport lanes rerouted without authorization. Automated defense grids flickered and turned inward, locking their own fleets in hangars. Communication lines buzzed with static, then died altogether. Earth didn't need to fire a single weapon. They were the weapon. Reeve stood in the central command of the TSV Revenant, eyes fixed on the cascading data streaming across the holodisplay. Every second, another system fell into chaos. Not from violence, from precision. Every AI hub the Council had once controlled now stuttered, faltered, or rerouted to Earth's oversight protocols. Years of Terran code, buried deep inside their networks, sleeping, waiting, had awoken all at once. They hadn't just joined the galaxy's tech. They had quietly rewritten it. Behind him, Ayla stared at the same stream of collapsing infrastructure. Her arms were crossed, but her jaw was tight. "We're shutting down their spine," she muttered. "How long before they start eating each other?" Reeve didn't answer right away. His expression was hard, distant. "They already are." Reports were pouring in from every quadrant. Border systems refusing to take council orders. Trade federations declaring neutrality. Mercenary groups flipping loyalty to Earth in exchange for system security. And deep inside the core sectors, riots had broken out on at least 4 council worlds. Not against humans. Against the Council itself. Ayla pulled up a feed, uncensored, showing one of those uprisings. On the wealthy planet of Kelthera, a crowd of protesters stormed a data tower, chanting in hundreds of different alien dialects. Some held makeshift signs, others carried torches, but the message was the same. No more lies, no more chains. The people weren't afraid of Earth. They were inspired by it. The Galactic Council, once the unshakable authority of interstellar politics, was cracking under its own weight, and Earth was just holding the mirror. "Reeve," Ayla said quietly, "they're asking for you." He turned. A second feed was incoming, this time from a private frequency, not from Vereen. She had vanished, likely in hiding or under protection from the few loyal systems she had left. This was different. A council elder, Isolan, ancient, neutral, and feared for her wisdom. Reeve accepted the transmission. The elder appeared, her form flickering like fog, soft and translucent. Her voice, though alien, was thick with gravity. "You have broken the back of a 1,000-year order, human." "I didn't break it," Reeve replied calmly. "I just exposed how fragile it really was." She nodded once. "Then let us speak truth. The galaxy cannot survive like this. Earth has proven itself. Not just as a force, but as a voice. One we chose not to listen to." Reeve's brow lifted. "Is that an apology?" Isolan paused. "It is a reckoning." The silence hung for a moment, heavy with something unspoken. Then she added, "We want peace. But we do not want to be ruled." "We don't want to rule," Reeve said. "We want a seat, a voice, a place where being human doesn't mean being punished for having a spine." "Then help us build something new." That made Ayla raise her head. Her eyes flicked to Reeve, curious, suspicious. "Start over?" he asked. "The council is done. The systems are rebelling. Even now, dozens of ambassadors are abandoning their posts. Vereen has vanished. The illusion is broken," Isolan said. "We need something better, and we need Earth to be at the center of it." Ayla leaned in, muting the feed for a second. "You know this could be a trap." Reeve didn't look away from the screen. "Number, this is surrender in the form of diplomacy." He unmuted the call. "Then we'll help rebuild," he said. "But under our terms." Isolan nodded slowly. "Then speak them." Reeve took a breath. "Transparency, equality, protection for new worlds, representation for emerging species, and a unified defense system not controlled by any single world, including Earth." Ayla blinked. That last part surprised even her. Isolan's fog-like face smiled faintly. "Spoken like a true leader." The feed ended. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Ayla asked, "You trust her?" "No," Reeve said. "But I trust the galaxy has seen what we're capable of, and they'd rather sit with us than stand against us." She smirked. "So we're not just feared anymore?" He shook his head. "We're necessary." The galaxy, as always, didn't fall apart all at once. It splintered. Days after Isolan's message and Earth's firm grip on the galaxy's neural networks, things began to settle. On the surface, major trade routes reopened under Terran oversight. Black market arms trades dried up overnight. Pirate fleets, once protected by corrupt council factions, were hunted down ruthlessly by Terran ghost ships. Reeve's face, once forgotten in prison, now played on every system across 100 worlds as a symbol of resolve. But not everyone was ready to kneel. In the shadows of a dying star system known as Vilethera, a message was being written, not in words, but in blood. On the bridge of the Vrek Dominion dreadnought, Chancellor Vereen sat surrounded by the last of her loyalists. Her scales had dulled into a sickly gray. Her eyes no longer shimmered with confidence, but with something colder. Obsession. "They call him a hero," she hissed, voice distorted from the burn that scarred half her face. Courtesy of her escape from Council Prime. "They think humanity has saved them. Fools." Her war minister, General Surak, clicked his mandibles in agreement. "The weak cling to the strongest voice in the room. That voice is Earth, for now." Vereen turned slowly. "Then we silence it." She stepped forward and revealed what the others had not yet seen. A black, oblong stasis pod. Inside, a half-living creature floated, tangled in wires, pulsing softly. It wasn't alien. It was human. "What is this?" Surik asked, his voice cautious. "A soldier," Vereen whispered. "One of the many the Council captured during the early Earth expansion. We ran experiments on their resistance, their biology, their minds. This one didn't break, so we turned it into something better." Surik's eyes narrowed. "You made a weapon." "I made a message," she growled. Her fingers danced across the console, and the pod began to drain. Across the galaxy, Reeve sat in a strategy briefing aboard the Revenant, surrounded by the Terran Accord's most trusted commanders. Oyla stood beside him, monitoring intel feeds from rogue systems. "The bulk of the Council has accepted our terms," Ayla said, pointing to the updated map. 37 sectors are now operating under transitional agreements. Trade is stable. Riots are down. Even the X-Zen leadership has requested a cultural exchange program with Earth. Reeve gave a small smile. "From prisoners to professors. Not bad." But then the room dimmed. An alert blared. Unauthorized broadcast on a priority emergency channel. No one moved. All eyes turned to the main holoscreen. The feed came alive. Not with Vereen's face, but something far worse. A Terran outpost, located in the distant Curvos system, was under siege. Fires raged. Human soldiers lay in twisted heaps. Entire buildings crumbled in silence. And at the center of it all stood a figure. Bipedal, armored in obsidian plates, face hidden behind a breathing mask that hissed with every slow, mechanical inhale. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. Its message was carved into the outpost's walls in seared plasma. "Earth is not invincible." Reeve's blood ran cold. "Pause it," he snapped. Ayla zoomed in on the figure. It moved like a human. It fought like a human. But something in the way it stood, the unnatural twitching of its hands, the faint glow beneath the armor, was wrong. "Is that one of ours?" a captain asked. "No," Ayla said quietly. "That's one of theirs." Reeve leaned forward. "Find out how many more there are." But Ayla didn't need to check. New alerts were already flashing across the system. Attacks, small but precise, remote colonies, diplomatic posts, research stations, each one targeted with surgical brutality, and always, always that same figure. Or one just like it. "This isn't rebellion," Ayla said, her voice sharp now. "This is a campaign." Reeve stood slowly, a storm building behind his eyes. "She's trying to restart the war." Ayla looked at him. "What do we do?" He didn't hesitate. "We find her, and we end this for good." The hunt began with silence. No speeches, no warnings, just orders moving down the Terran chain of command like cold wind over steel. Reeve stood in full dress uniform aboard the TSV Revenant, though his heart was already deep in the void. Across the galaxy, Earth had tried to rebuild, to bring order without blood, but Vereen had chosen a darker path. She hadn't just vanished. She had planned. And now her shadow puppets were slicing through the fragile peace, one outpost at a time. Ayla entered the command deck, her face grim. "We found her." Reeve turned sharply. "Where?" "Veilthera. Unmapped system. Radiation fields kept it off most charts. She's operating from a Dominion dreadnought, running black core energy. That thing's a flying fortress." He absorbed it all without blinking. "And the enhanced?" "Confirmed. Genetic profile matches a Terran Marine. Missing for 5 years. We think she's using neural overlays and adaptive bioarmor. There may be more." Reeve's jaw tightened. "Then we end it now. No diplomacy, no offers, no terms." Ayla nodded. "I've already mobilized Strike Group Theta." The Revenant and her sister ships, stealth-class Terran destroyers, made the jump through slipstream space with lethal purpose. Within hours, they were at the edge of Veilthera's system, their hulls cloaked in ion shadows. From orbit, the Dominion dreadnought looked like a gaping wound in space, blacker than the void itself, pulsing with power. Reeve stood at the front of the drop bay, suited in combat armor. The burns on his body from the Council's imprisonment still ached under the plates, but he welcomed the pain. It reminded him why he was here. Ayla suited up beside him, locking her gauntlets. "You sure about this?" "We finish what they started." The drop pods launched in silence, cutting through the radiation clouds like comets. They smashed into the hull of Virine's dreadnought, magnetic claws locking in. Doors blew open, and Terran forces poured in like a tide of vengeance. Inside, the corridors were twisted and dim. Dominion tech pulsed with sickly green light, and the air tasted of oil and decay. But Reeve moved forward like a blade, his team slicing through the resistance. The enhanced soldiers were there, fast, brutal, distorted versions of their human selves. But Earth had trained for this. The first wave fell. Then the second. Reeve came face to face with one of the altered humans in the central engine core. Its breathing mask hissed, glowing red. For a moment, it hesitated. Some piece of its old self flickered behind the madness. Reeve stepped closer. "You're not a weapon," he said softly. "You're a soldier. You served. You bled for your people. This isn't who you are." But the thing screamed, inhuman, distorted, and lunged. Reeve met it with steel. The fight was brutal. Close. Reeve took 2 hits to the chest, armor cracking, ribs screaming. But in the end, he drove his blade through the thing's neck and held it until it stopped twitching. He didn't mourn it. He promised it peace. They reached the command bridge minutes later. The doors opened with a hiss of stale air. Virine sat alone on her throne. She looked ruined, her face gaunt, the fire gone from her eyes. But her pride clung to her like rusted armor. "I see you brought fire," she said, smiling weakly. "That's what I always feared most, not your kindness, your rage." Reeve stepped forward, visor up, face bare, scars visible. "You wanted fear. You wanted control. You made your choice." "And so did you," she whispered. Ayla aimed her rifle. "One shot and this ends." But Reeve raised a hand. "Number not like this." He approached Virine, pulled a data spike from his belt, and jammed it into the terminal beside her throne. "Every secret, every experiment, every crime, you're going to be remembered for them. Not as a ruler, not as a chancellor." He stared into her eyes. "But as the mistake that made us unstoppable." Virine hissed and lunged, but Ayla dropped her with a clean shot to the chest. The ship's AI core began transmitting, live, to every Council-linked system. The footage, the files, the truth. And just like that, the galaxy saw the rot. Back aboard the Revenant, hours later, Reeve stood before a crowd of Terran officers. Behind him, the stars were bright again. "This war was never about territory," he said. "It was about being seen, being respected. And now," he looked to the sky, "now they see us,